coming online, we formed Slic, which stood for St. Lawrence Internet Connect, and that was our dial-up company back in the day when we had dial-up for internet. We did that for 5 or 6 years, and then in the early 2000s, we built the fiber ring in St. Lawrence County, and we connected the schools and the hospitals in Canton, Potsdam, Messina, and Augsburg, and that was kind of how we got founded. We had an opportunity in 2007. At that point, I was actually at Clarkson University as a chief information officer there. We did a lot on trying to promote rural broadband. We felt that was a real issue for rural communities not having access. So the first community we went into was Newton Falls. It was an old paper mill, and a company out of Canada had bought the paper mill and just assumed that they could run it from Canada via the internet. The problem was they had copper lines, and every time it rained, they would lose connection. So between the university, Slic, and the county industrial development agency, we built a fiber link up to the paper mill. And while we were at it, we convinced the company to invest in bringing fiber to the homes in this little hamlet of Newton Falls. About 200 people live there. The good news was they all got really fast internet. The bad news is the mill still closed after about 2 years in 2009. But what we found out is people kept the internet, and it really opened up opportunity in that little village. And so from there, we started to expand our rural broadband. 2012, 2014, we got a grant from the federal government to build out St. Lawrence and Franklin County. We built out about 800 miles of rural fiber. And then we followed on with some New York State grants, and we expanded into Long Lake, Newcomb, Minerva, Warren County. We just finished a big project in Washington County, so places like the town of Hebron that had literally no connectivity, we put in 150 miles of fiber and brought those communities online. About that same time, we heard from a lot of the towns that we went around, because the grant dollars was all out in the rural places and not in the populated areas. And a lot of people wanted an alternative to the resident cable providers. There was not a lot of choice, and there's a feeling that they weren't necessarily investing in their infrastructure. So with that, we started on an expansion plan where we were going to build into some places that weren't necessarily unserved, but either were lightly served or only had coax as one option. So in the recent year, about a year now, we've been actively building. We put fiber in Ballston Spot. We haven't turned it up yet, but we're close. With that project, we also extended and we built fiber in the village around Lake, and then we'll expand that up into Malta. We also have projects going on up in the North Country. We built the village of Potsdam, the village of Messina, where we weren't before. We did all the residential customers there. And I have some other projects that are going on up in Lake George and kind of filling it in between. We also have a very active project right now down in Waterford that we're building, and Mechanicville, so a couple of different places you'll see. So within the village of Round Lake, we run fiber on the poles, and we have a electronics cabinet that we put in over by the DPW. Working with the village, we put a generator in there that will provide emergency power for our equipment, but we also share that with the DPW, so the DPW now will have backup power in the event of a power outage. One of the things that's really important and distinguishes fiber optic internet from coax internet is we have what's called a passive network design. So from our electronics cabinet by the DPW to the customer's home, we don't require any power. It's all lasers basically that go over the fiber optic cable. We can go up to 40 kilometers without any kind of regeneration, so we have quite a long reach on that. And that means if you lose commercial power, if you either have a battery backup or a generator, you continue to have internet and phone. Unlike coax-based internet, that when the power goes out, they lose your connectivity there. So the packages we'll be offering come bundled with a 8-hour battery, so that will power your internet, and if you get phone service, we also, our roots to a phone company, we still have phone service we can offer. I know a lot of people moved away from landlines, but some people like that. So that'll give you backup power for your landline and your internet. And then we also bundle it with a Wi-Fi router. That router will cover roughly 2,500 square feet. That varies with the construction of the home. If you have a plaster and lath home with wire mesh, you're not going to get very good Wi-Fi. If you've got a more of a stick-built house, it covers pretty well. So, and we have add-ons we can do to help you get the coverage. With that, all of the other distinguishing feature of a fiber-based internet product is that it's symmetrical. So that means your uploads are as fast as your downloads. On a coax-based system, because it depends on radio frequency and a lot of physics, you can get a pretty good download, but your uploads are usually limited to 30, 35 meg, which a couple of years ago wasn't a big deal, but now with more people working online and doing Zoom conferences and things like that, that upload is increasingly important for people to have. The system that we're putting in place is capable of 10 gigabit per second. Out of the gate, we're not going to offer that speed tier. We're going to have a 2 gig offering, a 1 gig offering, a 400 and a 200. I have some pricing up here. Roughly starts around $72 for the 200 by 200, up to about $138 for a 2 gig by 2 gig. We don't do promotional pricing, so it's not going to be this price and then a year it's going to jump up or anything like that. So I will say, when you compare our prices to the competitor, their promotional pricing may be a little bit better, but it's not going to be long term. Our philosophy is we're not going to play gimmicks, we're not going to tack on a lot of fees. Those are going to be our prices. I've been with the company 8 years, we've changed prices once, we increased it. Some packages went up $3 and some went up $5. So we try to be very cognizant of that and keep our prices competitive and low. Up until just recently, we also participated in the Affordable Connectivity Program. Unfortunately, Congress has not renewed that program. That was a program that was a $30 statement credit for people who qualified, typically people who qualified for SNAP or other types of public assistance, the free and reduced lunch program. We're hopeful that Congress will reinstate the funding for that, but that was with that program in place, for people who qualify, it makes the internet about $1 a day, which we think is a pretty affordable price point. And as I told the mayor, we try to work with communities if there are particular needs, and these pricing don't work. We've worked with schools and things like that to make sure people can get access when they need access. We don't necessarily advertise that, it's kind of on a one-off basis, but we will work with you and make sure that happens. During COVID, we put antennas up on grain silos to hit homes that didn't otherwise have internet so that we could keep people connected. I don't know what else to tell you. I don't want to give you too much information. I don't want to take a ton of your time. I appreciate you having me here. If you have questions, please ask. I have some flyers up here that have our pricing. As far as the launch date, we are hoping to launch by the end of March. That being said, we're dependent on some highway permits and other things coming through, and the state doesn't always hit the targets we want, but that's really what we're looking for. We have most of the fiber in place here in Round Lake. We have connection from the Round Lake cabinet back to Ballston Spa, and then the Ballston Spa cabinet is connected to the north to Glens Falls and the south to Mechanic Hill. So we're building a ring. Some of that fiber right now is leased. As we continue our project, we'll have our own backbone that will connect all of that. But what we didn't want to do was wait till we have everything built and turn it up. So we're using some lease circuits from some partners to get the little pods lit up, and then as we expand our networks and connect, we'll have our own backbone as well. And then just from a practical standpoint, what it looks like is if you look on the poles up there, there's a thin black cable, that's our fiber optic. That has anywhere from 288 down to about 96 fibers, depending on what part of town that's in. And then there's what's called a terminal, or we call it MST. It's about this big, and it's got basically the drop that goes to the house, it's a little piece of fiber, we'll plug it in there. The fiber will go right to the house, go inside the house, and then we have a small device that's about this big, called an optical network terminal. Basically turns that fiber optic into Cat5, like your normal internet cable that you would think of. And from there you can plug into the Wi-Fi router. If you want to use your own, you can. Like I said, we bundle it with it. If you say, I don't want your Wi-Fi, I'll provide my own. I think it's $4.95 a month and we can use it. But we encourage people to bundle. It's just we have a better view of what's going on to help troubleshoot any issues you may have. What questions can I answer for you all? Yes, sir.
About the Wi-Fi router?
Yeah.
Is that configurable by the homeowner?
It is. So it's a Wi-Fi 6 router. There is an app you can download so that you can do things like parental controls. You can create your own guest network on there. You can change your password, and you can do some basic configurations on there. There are a couple configurations that are locked out mainly because it affects the way the network works as far as like assigning an IP address and password. But it is configurable and manageable by the homeowner.
Can you get it with a cable directly from a computer rather than using a phone?
You can. You can. So you would go to, basically there's a web address you would hit and you would do that. And the Wi-Fi router we use, it's called a Beacon. You could also, if you had a desktop computer that didn't have a wireless card, you could Cat5 into the beacon, and that will serve it.
Thank you.
And if you have a larger house, or like I said, if you have a house that construction isn't conducive to Wi-Fi, we do have mesh units, so you can put additional units to get good coverage. Yes, sir.
Will your coverage include Griffin's Ridge?
So we talked to Ted a little bit about that, and we need to discuss that. So most of what we've done here is aerial, we're up on the existing poles. Griffin Ridge would require us to go underground, and there's some investment on there, so I want to talk to the homeowners, one, make sure everybody's on board, because you're gonna have to go through multiple people's yards, right? And we wanna be a good neighbor, not just go up and tear up people's yards without talking to them. And we wanna make sure we get a certain amount of participation, so it's worth the investment in that. So we're gonna have an ongoing conversation of what that looks like, but our intent is, we don't wanna go where we're not wanted, but we would love to be there if you'd like our service. The underground work is a bit more disruptive, so we want to be sensitive to that and make sure that everybody's on board before we show up with big pieces of equipment.
Do you know if you can get access down Cleveland to get there?
The mayor thinks so, and I will talk to DPW to make sure, but the intent would be we would, about 12 inches off the side of the road, we would go down about 3 feet with a conduit and then pull our fiber through there. And I think there's a stream, we might have to put a couple poles to get up over the stream. Keep DEC happy.
That makes sense, yeah? Or DPW is.
Oh,
Yeah, it's doable.
okay, so we work with you and go out there, our guys can meet you, and stake it all out and make sure there's no hidden issues we're not aware of, but, the other alternative, we'd have to come across Route 9, and that may be a little bit more difficult to do. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
If the network slows out, it has problems,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of service do you plan to have?
Okay, so that's a great question. So we'll have technicians in the area. I've already got some that are in, we've got a technician in Boston, we've got a couple up in Saratoga right now, we'll be hiring more. Our goal is to respond within 24 business hours, okay, when there's an issue. We can do a lot of troubleshooting online. If we know that, for example, if your ONT is down, it means either there's no power, we've got a break in the fiber, then we would dispatch somebody to come do that. And our goal is to do that within 24 hours. We do have business class service, which actually it's a 4-hour response rate, but that's a different price tier because of those type of things that we do for businesses.
One more question, please. I think it'll give us an extra option, homeowners.
Mhm.
Currently, many of us have Spectrum, some have 5G from Verizon, others just T-Mobile. And maybe other options people have, I have a Wi-Fi hotspot on my iPhone that doesn't work very well. So this will add an option
Yes.
to us, and you can replace, the cable bundle includes telephone, TV, and internet.
Yes.
Do you replace all of those 3 services?
We replace telephone and internet. In certain territories in our footprint up in St. Lawrence County, we do offer TV. However, I'll just be honest with you, TV has kind of been a horrible business lately. The content costs keep going up, less and less people are buying it. So we've made the choice, we're not expanding our TV offering outside of St. Lawrence and Franklin County. However, we have a lot of customers that choose to do things, I believe Hulu has a live product where you can get local channels. YouTube TV, you can get local channels. So there are streaming options. And what we find is people prefer to have that choice. I don't know that it's any cheaper. I don't know there's any cheap way to get TV, but you can kind of pick and choose what you're going to use, right?
We have an ad antenna here, try using that,
Right. Where I am up in St. Lawrence County, there are no over-the-air. You can't get it, but we haven't had TV in 5 years. We do a little Netflix. I've got 5 kids, so we do the Disney thing, and that works for us. I think we did Paramount for the Super Bowl. It was $6 for the month. So there are options to get it. It's just not going to be your traditional cable box. But I think even Spectrum is moving away from that. They're going to more streaming options and things like that. That's kind of the direction things are going.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as we get closer to launch, I will let the mayor know. I'll have some more information. You go to slicfiber.com. I will tell you right now, the pricing you see on there is for our legacy network, which is older technology, so we can't offer the same speeds. So you'll see the same price tiers, but it won't be the same speeds. That's not what we'll be offering in Round Lake. And in the next 2 weeks, we'll be launching a Round Lake specific landing page that will have all the information for Round Lake specifically. So it'll be slicfiber.com/Round Lake. You can go there, see the different packages. You can sign up online, you can give us a phone call, and we'll get you there.
Spell your URL, please.
SLICFIBER.com.
F-I,
BER, fiber.
got it.
Yep.
Hearing is not what it used to be,
So does that hand out the, we're gonna see on the Round Lake page?
That's correct. That's gonna have our pricing, and then you'll see the name of the company, slicfiber.com, and it'll be on our website. I'll mention for our customer support, so, we have in-house customer support Monday through Friday through about 7 o'clock, and then we roll over to a service that also can do troubleshooting for us, and they can dispatch our technicians and all of that. We do all the billing in-house, and we'll be hiring more and more people in region. So we just hired our first customer service rep in Washington County, so we're excited about that. And so we have technicians in the area as well. And so, one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is good customer support. And, one of my favorite comments we got was, I like calling Slic because it's like talking to your mother, but she knows stuff about computers. So I thought that was a pretty good compliment. Thank you so much for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next up are the public comments.
Are we gonna be, discuss this stuff on New York Avenue, or are we gonna say everything we have to say during public comment period?
Public comment.
Yeah. Not having a public hearing?
Not at this time, no, it's way too premature for that.
Premature?
Yes, do you have something to say, Jim, about?
Yeah, why aren't we having a public hearing? I just don't, it's premature. You were gonna vote on it last week, or 2 weeks ago, you were gonna vote on it.
You're not clear about that.
You sure didn't sound that way.
Jim, do you have a comment?
I have a comment, I think we should have a public hearing.
Okay, are there any other comments? Here.
Around Lake, sorry, 39 on Wilton. My understanding is that the money for this purchase would come out of parkland funds. And parkland funds is for any of the green space, the parks, anything else. I know I've heard concerns about the amount of the purchase, and my understanding is the parkland fund is about 600 and some thousand. So to me, it sounds like we have adequate money in the parkland fund that can only be used for the green space, for this purchase, as well as any other projects for our green land. That's my comment. My question would be, what are our other projects that would be using parkland money, and would we still fit within the confines of that budget?
Over the past few years, we have looked at several properties. We looked at and had properties appraised. Crandall's property, we looked at that. We had that appraised, looking to purchase it. The land up by the bypass, we had that appraised. There was a grant to try to use matching funds to get state grants to buy that. That was not successful, so. A couple others that escaped me. Those are the things that we have been in the past looking to do.
Sorry, but you don't have any future projects for the park, for the playgrounds, or any of that in the near future?
No, I know Jason wanted to start a charity parkland committee, so we will be getting that going.
And I'm sorry, one last comment. I personally, my personal feeling is I'm in favor of, the amount is pretty extraordinary, but I'm in favor of building up the buffer around Round Lake to protect us from the encroachment of the eventual compression by the multi-growth. Thank you.
Okay.
Why would we pay $300,000 plus something for something that he only paid $100,000?
Because that is the appraised value.
Well,
If he only paid $100,000 for it,
It's called capitalism.
oh,
Okay, please address the comments to the board.
He purchased the land several years ago for $100,000, and the land is worth $300,000 in today's fund. That's essentially it. If the land were to be sold, it is appraised at $300,000 in today's money.
and he only paid 100 for it.
Right, just like if you bought a house in 1950 for $10,000, you could sell it today for $500,000. Things go up over time.
Not that much.
The house is in a village app.
That's a little different, that's a little different than
We could
buying a
debate-
piece of land.
Okay.
We could debate the value of things, but the answer to your question is because he bought it several years ago and things go up and we got it appraised, and that's how much it's worth today, according to an appraiser.
Okay, any other comments, Robert?
How many appraisals were done?
One. They're not cheap.
I know, there's a bit, years ago I did an appraisal of a house, there were two different kinds of appraisals in New York State. Was there a special kind of name for this appraisal, or was it?
You know, if you come in tomorrow, I can show you the appraisal, and I don't have that answer
Okay, all right.
off the top of my head. Dixon?
May I just ask a question?
You may.
Thank you. The three houses at the end of New York, I mean, they're the three pieces of land that you said you were going to give to them. Isn't that already on a separate deed, so that they can build on that anyway?
Yes,
I mean, there's no, you're not really giving them anything, you're only giving them the two lots down on Morris Road, is that correct?
the current proposal is the 2 lots on Morris Road, and a small bit of additional land might be given at the northeast corner of New York Avenue. But the 3 lots that are up there, well, there aren't 3 lots, there is a lot up there, and it's proposed that that be subdivided into 3 separate parcels.
Subdivided.
But those are not coming from the village.
No, that's already on a separate deed up there.
Sam?
Don't you think there's enough questions to have a public hearing? I'm surprised there aren't more people
May I
here.
respond to that?
Yes.
I looked at the law, and I do not see any basis to hold a public hearing.
For spending
the-
$300,000?
You should want to, whether it's a law or not.
And so, I contacted the New York State Comptroller's Office, one of their attorneys called me back. I said, this is how I read the law, however, I want to make sure that we get this right. And we went through it in detail, and he said there was no need for a public hearing. Now, under New York law, the board can't just hold a public hearing if the law doesn't provide for it. So the best we can do is to have a public meeting. In a sense, it amounts to the same thing, but it's got a different label. It's a public meeting as opposed to a public hearing. That's why we send out a lot of notices to a lot of people about the potential purchase for tonight, so that it would serve the same function as a public hearing, although it is in fact a public meeting.
And we did take your suggestion to send out letters to neighboring people as well.
Maybe we can have a vote like we did with this fire siren.
I suspect it would turn out the same. 20% don't care, 20% are adamant about it, and 20% want it, 20% don't, and 60% don't care one way or the other, is what? I would
There's 2
suspect.
people here officially tonight
Yes.
or against it.
I was just wondering if you had a map of what the proposed things are that you're doing up at the end of America.
Yeah, we have a, not very good one.
It's the same one I have.
We have better ones if you stop in tomorrow. Okay, superintendent report.
Yes.
On the water, the nuclear chlorine analyzer is up and running, and it seems to be running rather well. We finished it up today, getting it programmed. Next is the flow meter for Victoria Landings. So we'll be getting on to that. We're trying to locate a company that will make an insert for that as we pull that meter out so we can keep the water ongoing. Also on the water tank itself, I'm gonna go up. I talked to Keith. I don't remember the name of the company I worked with today. I couldn't get it all. But I'm suspecting that the blower motor is gone. They say they typically go and pull the whole unit and replace it, although I'm going to go up there and see if I can get the motor out. He says it's a 50-50 chance. So I'm going to try. There's no, if I can, I can't, but if I can get it to disassemble and get that motor off, it's a huge savings. So I'll keep you updated on that. On the equipment, we've got the 2000 International back. It's up and running, new line, and more. We got the loader back, still leaking antifreeze. We brought it back to CAT. Where that's going to go, I don't know. I'll find out when they look at it again. The new International that we ordered, I just found out, won't be in until around December of this year. So it was supposed to be in last year, and this winter, then spring, and now it's looking like winter this year, coming year. The only other thing I'll talk to you about, Gary, and get it, we're up for a new F-350, the 2009 needs to be replaced. So I'll talk to you about that. The street signs are in. I would have had them picked up, but I worked late today, and it just went right off my radar. So we'll be picking them up Monday and getting them installed on Monday. That's really about it. I didn't have time to put a lot together.
Okay, thank you. Treasurer.
Accounting firm CHS has submitted our state fourth quarter 23 filing on January 22nd. That was on time. While working on our 2023 AUD, now called AFR, annual financial report, CHS has discovered that our financial computer system has installation gaps, preventing proper integration between accounts payable and finance portions of the software, and preventing proper classifications of revenue in some cases. So this is hindering our AFR completion and our monthly reconciliations. So we're working with our IT providers to fix the programming. And while we understand that this issue stems from initial installation of the system, it's impossible to identify a single root cause for the oversight. In anticipation of changing our workflow to provide more financial transparency, we have opened 2 new bank accounts dedicated to payroll, and also the second one to sewer and water accounts. However, it's unlikely that we're going to be using these accounts until after the AFR and monthly reconciliations are completed. The village uses a few, number 2, the village uses a few perpetual engineering accounts for special projects. These are financed by the entities managing the special projects. The totals in these accounts are intended to roll over from one fiscal year to the next. With last year's financial disruptions, these account totals have not yet been carried over to this fiscal year. So we're asking for a resolution to move funds to the following engineering accounts with the totals from the end of the last fiscal year. So we're asking for a resolution to increase the engineering Griffin's risk account 81440.42 by $4,163.50, and decrease our unappropriated balance account 859.90 by the same amount. Also to increase the engineering account rate, engineering the mill account 81440.45 by $6,507, and decrease the unappropriated balance account $859.90.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Tom?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Yes.
Item number 3, to increase maintenance expenses and the large repair for rescue vehicle R545, charge code 83410.21, fire protection equipment maintenance has been over encumbered by $1,208.62. A resolution is requested to move funds within the fire protection budget lines to make up for the shortfall and cover anticipated expense through the rest of the fiscal year. This would increase the equipment maintenance 83410.21 by $30,000 and decrease admin assistant 83410.12 by the same.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Tom?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Yes.
Last item, number 4, fire protection personal services 83410.10 is over encumbered by $1,050.62. This code partially pays for village clerk, treasurer, and accounting firm CHS. All of these parties have been writing more time overall to these codes than in previous years. However, this code was originally intended to pay only clerk and treasurer. It was how it was budgeted at the beginning of the fiscal year. We are moving CHS associated payments to auditor codes for financial clarity. So we're asking for a resolution to transfer funds from auditor account to remove the over encumbrance and separate these expenses. This would increase fire protection personal services 83410.10 by $3,910.75 and decrease auditor contractual 813.20.4 by the same number.
So moved. Second. Okay. Yeah, so my one question on this is, so going forward, the auditor is going to, it will be under the auditor contractual going forward?
Yeah, we've got, I think an A, F, and G auditor accounts, which we're trying to put all the CHS associated expenses in.
Okay, so CHS has been billing under the fire protection personal services
Part
partially.
of their funds, that's some from there.
Thank you.
So would that still include the clerk and treasurer?
The fire protection personal services code is still going to be timed into only by treasurer and clerk, right?
So that's going forward as of today, or is it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right now.
got it.
Tom?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Chief?
Hi, folks. So 51 calls for the month of January. So we're basically still on track for where we were last year. So probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 calls is what we expect if everything stays the way we're going. We all know we had a successful ice rescue. If you don't know, we had a successful ice rescue on the lake here not too long ago. From what I understand, that patient is expected and had been for recovery, from what I understand. So kudos to everybody that was involved in that incident. That being said, actually this coming weekend, we are going to have our actual annual ice drill. The next 2 weekends in a row, we'll be using the lake in the launch for half day in the morning to do that, our ice training with our mutual aid departments and et cetera. So our fire police will be closing down the launch early Saturday morning, and we'll keep it closed till about noontime for us to have access to get everybody in and out of the water and so on. There'll be about 5 departments there. So that's really all I got for the month. Other than that, pretty quiet.
Just an observation, Chief, in the 35 years I've been here, I don't think I've ever had a winter where I've never seen people out on the ice. And and I know, it depends on the time of day I'm going by, but is that been, like, no shanties, no nothing?
Yeah, it's weird because I can remember several years ago going out there early in the morning to cut our ice and it's 2 feet thick. These guys, when they did this rescue, they said that ice was only a couple inches, maybe a few at most in some spots. So this will be actually a good ice for us to train on because it'll be kind of realistic of a situation where we had to rescue. So I think it's just an anomaly here. It's cold and nice, so there's still this some ice out, but I would not encourage anybody to be out on the lake at this point. So, thank you.
Thanks. Parking and animal control.
No animal control calls. I've made 5 trips around the village. There's really nothing going on parking wise.
Good.
That's it.
Okay, auditorium?
Good evening. The first thing that I'd like to report is that we recently have just changed the online ticketing platform for the 2024 season. We're now working with Humantix, Humantix. Humantix is a firm managed by young social entrepreneurs that has changed the whole concept of booking fees and into helping humanity. Sounds unbelievable, but they're doing it. They literally donate 100% of the profits of the booking fees to education and healthcare for disadvantaged youth. At this time, almost several $1 million has gone to buying computer science classes across the United States. Also, the booking fees are considerably less than the new current prices that were just introduced by Eventbrite, the ticketing platform we used in 23. Humantix provides real people that you can talk to and answer questions, and they assign you a representative for your account, so you always have somebody available to work with you if something happens. Programming is moving forward. The dates for the tour and tea have been established. The open mic dates are on the calendar. 2 of the organ recitals have been confirmed. The dates for Carpe Diem camp and performances are confirmed, and I would like to get the contract to them sooner than later. The plans for the new 2024 Improv Spaces Music Festival are now underway, and the date is set. I'm also working on 3 lecture series. One of them, Botanicals, will be held in June. We're looking to do the history of the Round Lake Coast Company in late August, and I will update you on the 3rd one at our next meeting. Thank you for all those who provided input into all of this so far. Also, I'd love to have a family-friendly Shakespearean play at the end of August with a group from Troy, the Wilcat Players. For those of you who met the lovely cellist Anita Graff in 22, she and members of her family group will be returning to Round Lake for a weekend in August. She has a very musical family, and we will have a whole weekend of musical festivities. I am also setting volunteer welcome and orientation for May 16th in the auditorium, and I hope that many of you will attend and support the auditorium in 24. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to back up to AP3 and do a thank you to Lydia, who graciously offered to donate the village wood that has been used as a platform for bands and music, and so thank you for that. I thank her for that. And then I got an update from Scott, more about the library, but the library furnace is being installed this week, and the library should be up and open for their normal hours next week. And for that, so those are the 2 for the library, Willis, AP3. And then water and sewer payments are still being accepted with appropriate penalties and fees. The Little League Baseball Parade is scheduled for April, the end of April. And trivia with Gary Zanders is scheduled for March 8th. It's being done as a fundraiser for Wellspring. And there are some flyers around, and I think, I believe that is being held on Women's Day.
International Women's Day.
Thank you. And that is what I have. Thank you.
Okay. Under old business, New York Ave update and board discussion. Do you want to give us the latest update?
The latest update is that we had a meeting with the LLC that owns that property currently, and the village, including the mayor and the code enforcement officer, myself. The negotiations are far from firm, and we don't know whether this is going to happen or not. And I guess right now we're waiting to hear back from the owners to see whether this is still a viable option.
Any board questions?
Not specifically on New York Avenue, but I know when you were talking about when we got assessments, did we ever get an assessment for the lands on Washington Avenue below the creek, between the creek and, let's say, Jason's or former Bill Lehman's place? All those things are owned by, a lot of that's owned by Road Shop.
No.
I mean, I think going back to Tina's point, you know what's going to happen here now that we got Global 2. All this stuff, everything you see from that roundabout up there by the old Highway Cafe, that stuff's all going to be gone. 5 to 10 years it's coming. And I agree. I think we should be using as much money as we can as part-time money to secure rights, whether they be easements or outright purchases or something on these properties. I just don't see where we want to look like the rest of the town. I think it's a terrible waste.
I know Peter's had discussions with her about that particular parcel.
But I was thinking that, and you know, there's not much you can do. I think we've talked to Fred, but Fred is kind of still up in the air. I know Doug's here, but I don't know how much of Doug's property goes down to Fred's. But I mean, I really think we ought to at least be looking and having discussions with these property owners to see if they're willing to. I want to see this village stay the same. I don't ever hear anybody say, "I want the village to change." Everybody seems to want the village to stay the same, and I don't know how we do that without, reaching out, spending some of this money. And, this money is, what, 80 a year? You get 80 a year?
About 70.
70, okay. So you can go out and spend $350,000, and you have that $350,000 replenished in 5 years. So the cell tower is a cash cow. And we ought to be thinking about buying land. So, anyway, thank you.
Okay, next, a couple of resolutions to encourage the state legislature to do some things. The first one is encouraging legislature to increase the amount of money for aid and incentives for municipalities. Whereas the aid and incentives for municipalities, AIM program, plays a good critical role in funding essential municipal services for cities and villages across New York State. And whereas city and village officials share the same priorities as our state leaders, which is to make New York safer and more affordable. And whereas New York's local governments were on the front line of controlling property tax affordability and ensuring public safety are integral to achieving AIM funding in 15 years, and according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, inflation has increased by nearly 45% during that same period. And whereas this neglect from the state has led to rising municipal tax burdens and harmful disinvestment in essential municipal services and staff, and whereas the property tax cap further limits the ability of local governments to properly fund the services that residents need, and whereas the challenges of rising inflation, the increasing cost of labor and supplies, and the end of extraordinary federal aid only accentuate the need for an increase in AIM funding. And whereas the governor's 24-25 executive budget proposes to keep AIM funding flat, and whereas an increase in AIM funding will reduce the local tax burden and help revitalize communities across New York, now therefore be it resolved that the village board of the Village of Round Lake, New York, encourages Governor Hochul to work with the leaders of the Senate and Assembly and increase AIM funding in the 24-25 adopted state budget. And that was from the New York Council of Business, requesting that we do this.
You made that resolution here?
Second? Yes.
Second.
Discussion? Huh?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Yes. Next one is kind of one of my pet peeves. Every year when I look at the voter rolls, I see a lot of dead people. You know, my daughter, after 10 years of trying to get her off the voter rolls, is still registered at my house. And I send the names up to the Board of Elections, and they don't do anything with it, because it's a very, very cumbersome process to get someone off the voter rolls. So the New York Senate has unanimously passed a resolution, well, under the resolution, whereas the board of the Village of Round Lake is in favor of fair and secure elections, and whereas the New York State Senate has unanimously passed S61731, which allows New York to join a multi-state voter maintenance organization called ERIC, Electronic Registration Information Center, which is a coordinating entity between the states that aids them in removing ineligible voters from their voter rolls. And whereas the Electronic Registration Information Center, ERIC, is a public charity nonprofit membership organization comprising 25 states and the District of Columbia, and whereas ERIC's purpose is to assist states in improving the accuracy of America's voter rolls and increasing access to voter registration for all eligible citizens, now therefore be it resolved that the Village Board of the Village of Round Lake urges the New York State Assembly to adopt the companion bill A07052C.
Second.
Discussion?
That's one house right now?
Right, passed unanimously in the Senate.
Is it any, do we know anything about the assembly?
It's in the law committee.
Okay.
That's it.
Have we heard from our local representative on?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Eric? Yes. Yes. Next. Correspondence. Do we have correspondence?
And the only thing is an update that the person that was looking for a movie, and Dan was able to find a movie, and now we're looking for somebody that has the capability to convert the VHS to a more current format. And so if anybody knows of anybody or has the capabilities of doing that, let me know.
What kind of movie do we talk?
Oh, there was a woman who was in one of the plays over at the auditorium back in the 1890s, and she called that she would like to see if we had a copy of it.
And we have a copy.
Dan has a copy.
Okay.
He had somebody, I think he had some, I don't know if it was a filming crew, recording crew that came in for that period of time when he was first starting there, and he just happens to have a library of them, so it would be nice if, you know, right. So he does have it, but he doesn't want to just give it up freely if there's not a way to record it, because he feels that we might only have one opportunity to record it.
All right, approval of minutes.
I know it's not for now. Here are paper ones if anybody wants to. We'll go back to the minutes in a minute.
Approval of abstract.
Make a motion to approve the abstract in the amount of $86,897.39 to approve for fund as follows. The A fund, $71,396.43. F funds, $14,671.11. G fund, $829.85.
Second.
Discussion?
No.
Yes. Gary? Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Yes. All right, approval of minutes.
January 17th minutes. This is the January 17th minutes, right?
January
You're
7th
correct.
and February
Okay.
7th.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the January 17th minutes.
Second. We were all here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And I'll move the other,
February 20.
February
37.
seventh.
February 7th was the workshop meeting.
Yeah. Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Eric? Yes. Yes. Village attorney.
I have nothing.
Village mayor, two quick things. One is Hannaford now has a receptacle for drugs that you wish to dispose of. Instead of throwing them in the trash and putting them in landfills, which is not good. It is located in the pharmacy area. And the email I sent around to everybody, there's a public notice for the Saratoga County Hazard Mitigation Plan. I included a link if you wanted further information on that, and the date of a couple public hearings about that. Village trustees.
I'd like, I don't, if this has to be an motion or just a request, but I'd like to have the village board authorize the village attorney to contact the owners of the property at the roundabout, the 27 acres. And I know there's no current plan before the planning board or the zoning board of appeals. So I think we'd be in the clear in terms of the protocol. And perhaps we can engage them in a discussion on possibly purchasing that.
I've been working with them for several years already, so I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
And I know he was willing to sell.
Yeah,
You good, Tom?
yes.
So I have a question about the article that came out in the Times Union, I think it was on Monday, around the illegal marijuana pop-up shop that was in the village, and quotes around the village itself, and whether the Times Union had reached out to the village for comments, and what our comment was, because there were no comments from the village. Said that they had reached out to the code enforcement department, there were no comments, but quoted the landlord as stating that the Round Lake Code Enforcement Department said that the sales themselves were not illegal. And I just can't believe that that was something that Peter might have told them, but
That is not what was said.
no, but that's how we were quoted in the Times Union, so.
It was a question of whether it was zoned for retail sales.
Correct, yeah.
And we thought at first no, and then found in the record that some time ago, a variance had been granted for commercial use for that property.
Okay. Because the way, I think the way it was, the way Round Lake was portrayed in the article was not in the most positive light, so I don't know if we want to do something about that, about reaching out to the TU, correcting the record about what was said and what was discussed.
Well, I know that we've reached out numerous times about parking on Route 9.
Oh, it talks about that there, but it says basically that we gave them a hall pass on selling weed within the village, which I don't think is accurate at all.
Certainly not without getting a cut.
No, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's where it started. Yeah, we wanted our tax revenue. Yeah. Yeah.
I knew about that sale going on up there early last summer, and I mentioned it to a couple of unnamed people and they stayed out of it. I figured they'd investigate it.
It had been going on in Saratoga Springs all summer. They had the pop-up sales in the parking garages. They were well publicized and legal. And
I don't look at anything in Saratoga Springs,
apparently that ended according to the article, that permission stopped at the end of 2023.
Yeah. I just think it might be worthwhile having us reach out to the Times Union to clarify what the village's position was, because I think it was misrepresented in the article.
Well, hang on, okay. We're almost at
Eric,
public comment, second public comment. Go ahead.
Thank you. The way you set it up, I think we're supposed to hear you talk first, right, Tom, and then comment afterwards? Or was that, I got confused there. I'm talking about the sale of the land and the 2 lots at the end.
It's public comment, you can speak about whatever you wish.
Okay, well, before I want to step on no toes. You guys said you were gonna give us a map, and you guys sent me this. I just thought you were gonna give me a real map so I could really eyeball it and look at it. I mean, I could see it a little bit on that map, and I know kind of where the lots are. I'm kind of confused how you guys are gonna go about this. Are you gonna have a say in the lots and what's allowed on them? You say there's 2 homes, but you don't say whether it's 2 single-family homes. So I got a lot of questions about what kind of homes you're gonna put there, you know, because you could subdivide it, would it be able to subdivide them lots? And put 6 homes in each lot?
You're talking about Morris Road?
Correct, the 2 lots at the bottom of Morris Road.
I'm almost positive that they're single,
Okay,
not subdivided.
all right. It just seems like everything's pretty vague here. I'm not sure, if there's a plan or it's just early, right?
Understand that a map of the land to be conveyed and the 2 lots to be cut out on Morris Road and the location of the access from New York Avenue to the park, all that is supposed to be set forth in a map that is being generated by the sellers.
Okay.
We keep being told, it's not ready yet, it's not ready yet, it's not ready yet. So we don't have a map of the proposal in its most recent form. And as far as I'm concerned, we can't and shouldn't do anything until we finally get that map.
Yeah, it just seems like, it seems like a big project right across the board.
It should have been up there
Right.
for this meeting, but we don't have it.
And the second thing I was wondering is how they're gonna, how will they access the sewer line and what are they gonna do for water? So if you put 2 lots up there, unless you drill a hole in the ground, then you gotta run the water line up the rest of the way on Morris Road. So it's a bigger project than you just think, 2 lots. Is everybody, this is just preliminary, and you let people know what's going on.
Yeah, no, we discussed that with the developer, so they know the owner, so
Okay,
he's well aware of all this.
so we'll be notified on your next move or their next move, and we'll keep going forward.
Yes, we're just waiting and not seeing much action going on, so.
There's not a whole lot of action going on, we've been waiting for a while, and that was the reason for my comment, that it didn't look to me as though this were necessarily going to actually occur.
They started out with great strength. It started out really
Yeah.
strong, very fast.
Is it gonna be a survey or just a drawing that they come up with? I mean, I had to survey per lot so I could split it in half.
They have surveyed the lot, and if we do the deal, we're going to have a map with a meets and bounds designation.
A real survey, not just a sketch.
Yes,
that
a real
they
survey.
generated, okay.
And in fact, in order to file a survey map, I'm sorry, a subdivision map,
Right,
it has to be, stamped by an engineer.
and then,
So,
are they gonna jump through, I had to jump through a bunch of hoops, go to the planning board, go to the county.
slow down.
I had to jump through a bunch of hoops just to split a lot in half, go to the county, go to the planning board 3 times. They gotta do all that to do the same thing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. My other comment is, Tom, there's one thing that never changes. You say people don't want the village to change, there's one thing that never changes. Things change. And I would agree with you, I would like to have a buffer around the village, but I just think that lot isn't really gonna be, it's not accessible. There's not,
Well, but, yeah, I mean, it's a moot point right now.
Right now, yes, it is, I agree.
So, let's see, the ball is not in our court.
Okay.
So let's wait till the ball gets there and have another discussion. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, spring will be upon us soon, and I know there's always a flurry of activity at that time. And I'm really requesting that we give some consideration to the path over near the labyrinth that goes out. You can't even walk down that hardly at all. And I know it appears that we're having some concrete work done here and there, and I'm sure that John would have input on this too. But it is something that I really wish that we would consider, so that, one, we can use it more, two, that it's accessible to more people, and it's really hard terrain over there right now.
That's it. Okay, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss particular employment of a person, I forgot her card.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
You don't mind, I have to talk to the board myself.
Thank you.
In executive session. If I can say it
Depends about what.
All in one day.
Never a good deed goes unpunished.
They used to have free swim lessons at Caterham, so they had free tennis lessons, tennis court, so.
Yeah.
There was so much stuff for kids.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, I couldn't agree more.
Okay.
I got the best of interest. Exactly. I get a little rights. Yeah. So.
Okay.
All right. Have a nice day. All right.
You get out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that I would suggest that I kind of like slid over to Tom
We got one? I guess one. Yeah.